Good morning and welcome to Mission Apollo. Eloi, today we're going to talk about the Pro V7, the final product. But before that, how are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm good. Just woke up, so I'm a bit tired. I have my coffee, and I'm very excited to talk about that. It's a long list. I'm just finding the list now to be sure I don't miss one. But yeah, very excited. You got the haircut, looking fresh.
Yeah, just for this episode, actually, So a lot of internal deadlines to clean up a little bit. Cool, man. Well, let's talk about it. So, give us a little bit of an overview of what was the idea behind overseeing the final production in China? I guess why would anyone need to oversee a production in China? Why do we bother?
Yeah. Uh, I guess it's important to know that we also went for the pro beta production. So like everyone know, we made 150-ish pros before, and the purpose was to do the beta testing for the product itself, but also for assembly, because most of the problems occur usually because how it's being assembled. So we went the first time. First of all, it was very slow, the production, and we saw everything that needed to be like change on the production line and all the friction point. Like we just released a great video yesterday too that we walked through the production line if people are curious. But for example, we show like the old assembly sheet versus a new one. So we really focused this trip on making it easier for the workers. And also, we had a lot of improvement. We have over 50 improvements compared to the Pro Beta. So we wanted to make sure that they were implemented correctly, and that they were being assembled correctly as well, because it was new things compared to the new last production. So it's a lot of small thing. You need to make sure that are those screws being tightened to the right torque. Are they applying Loctite there and there? So really going into the nitty gritty detail, and the only way to do this is to fly there and see how they're doing it.
Yeah, I guess there's like the theory of telling the our partner, our factory, okay, do X, Y, and Z, but then as you will probably walk us through in a minute, there are like a million steps in making the Pro, right? All the way down to like dipping this specific component in this type of Loctite in this specific order before you assemble that specific part. So I think it's very easy to get lost in that complexity. And I think our challenge is usually how do we kind of maintain that discipline in terms of assembly, despite how complex the product can be. So overall, would you say successful trip or not so much?
Very successful. Like I told you, it's the most confident product we're gonna. I'm the most confident about this product that I ever was.
Mhm.
So now it's really every time we release a product, we're always like, like we pray, right? Like it's like, oh, we hope it's gonna be, they produced 2,000. You hope it's gonna be just as good as like the few they produced before for us. But this one we know it's just as good. So I think the whole team is just very excited, and which make this trip worth it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's great. So let's dive into some of the specifics of I guess first the changes between the beta unit and then the final production. If you could just give us a quick recap, and then secondly, I would love to hear as well if you discovered any surprises or kind of caught any maybe issues that perhaps would have slipped through the cracks, but because of our presence in China, we were able to prevent from happening. So let's start with the updates though. So what's new on the V7?
There's a lot of things that are new. I guess the general one, there's the waterproofing of the headset in general. For the speaker, we changed a way to do the waterproofing, so it sounds better. That was one of the reasons why it was sounding a bit cheap before. It's because it was vibrating or like membrane for waterproofing inside. So anyway, better this. So now the speaker sounds fantastic. We changed the angle of the brake handle and the throttle. So before they were flat, pretty much. You had the throttle here and the brake handle here. Now we decline both of them. So it's just more natural when you grab it, your handlebar. And we did that through across all the other models. We added a latch on the headset, so you're able to open it and lock it into the deck like all our other models. This is something we always said we didn't want to do with the Pro because it was so heavy, but still it was a big point of friction for our beta users, just when they want to like load it in their car, for example, and the bar swing left and right. And that happened to me, and it actually damaged my grip. So I could totally understand them. Though to fix a headset to the stem instead of at first we had 2 screws, then we switched to 4 screws for the betas, and now we decided to go with 6 screws, just to be consistent across the whole lineup. And we also made the screws head a bit bigger, so it's a lot harder to strip. Some people, when they were assembling the old scooter, it was they were stripping the head. And the last big one on the headset is the brake cable. We went with special brake cables that usually they use like in shifter of car. It's a bit too complicated, but basically now the cable can be twisted however, and it's still going to be butter smooth when you press on it. So that was a great update. The brake as well. A lot of people complain that the brakes were not tight enough. So now we changed the tolerance of the brake pad inside the motor to be tighter. So it's before you needed to adjust like all the adjustment to the max to get honestly barely any friction and brake the scooter. Now it's braking from the start. It's super stiff, so that's great. And it's the new brake pad coupled with the new brake cable that offer this. We have the folding mechanism to increase the tolerance, and even the new one we shipped it to all the beta testers to be safe. The nut inside the direction, instead of needing a spanner wrench, now you have like a regular nut, which is going to make it just so much easier. Maybe a side note, Randy, for the maintenance video, we should update this as well. The front spring, a lot of people this scooter is obviously for heavier people. Usually this is the kind of people who buy the GT Pro Wolf King with like the 2-stem, the gigantic thing. So it turns out that the spring stiffness was not enough, so a lot of people were bottoming out too easily. So we decided to increase that spring stiffness by about 35-40%. So now even without adjusting it, it's stiffer. It just feels as good, but you don't feel like you're gonna bottom out every time you jump too hard on it. That new spring feels so good. So that's what's new in the front, and we also added bearing in the suspension, the turning of the front and the back. So when you jump on it, instead of being on the middle part and you can hear the like this, now it's on like wheel bearing, so it's just so smooth. So that's stiffer suspension, but also a lot smoother. And the two coupled together feels incredible. And we did the same thing at the back. We really cracked down the right material for the rubber, because at the back we have a rubber cartridge, and now it feels just holding it in your hand. The other one felt so cheap, and the new one feels so good. So that's great. And lastly, at first we decided to extend the grip tape around all the footrests. But when we were in China, we were riding it in front of the factory, and we discovered that because we extended it by just a small strip, when you put your feet too hard on it, it was basically ripping it apart. So we decided to go back and just cut all of them like it was on the beta production. And for future production, we're gonna extend it over the footrest to really offer a good grip for the grip tape to stick on the frame. So I would say those were the major change that we saw, and a bunch of things on the software as well. And for something to answer your question about what is something we wouldn't have discovered if we didn't go to China, there is the torque of the direction. That was still a big debate. We have 2 main screws for the direction. How much do you need to tighten it to get it still feels good, the direction, and you're not crushing the bearing, but it's also stiff enough. So when you go at 65 or 70 kilometers per hour, you don't get that speed wobble. So we really cracked this down precisely. If anyone is listening and need to do it on any of their scooter, is 20 Newton meter. That's the number. And the brake cable. So the new brake cable, like I said, it's something completely new. I don't think any scooters are using this because it's just so expensive. But because of how it's made, when you were pressing, so a brake, maybe I can show, I have it here. I cannot switch it. But because of how brake cable is made, you have, it's very complicated, this one to explain, but basically when you were pressing on it, the new method that we use with metal lines were going through the end of the brake cable, and you were losing a good, basically all the adjustment on your brake was gone, so it was feeling too sick. which is fine. It was still braking, and you have the regen, so whatever. But obviously, it's not ideal. So we were like, I was just testing the scooters. I was pressing on the brake handle, and I was hearing like something like a creaking every time I was trying new brakes, and we discovered, yeah, it was just going through. So we had to like disassemble everything and change them. So that's a good one that we caught. And the front suspension, the bearings, we discovered that even if you have bearings now, the before you put the bearings, you put your shaft into a bushing, and then it goes into the bearing. And this was still causing a little, just a little creaking. You know, I remember you tried it as well, and you're like, "What is that?" You know, and well, we discovered we just need to add a little bit of oil there, and then it's completely silent. So it's just those small things, you know, like the cherry on top, I guess, that we caught. And that's great because it's nothing major. Like the first time we went, you know, we were like wondering, okay, why are the brakes like not braking like they should be, and a couple things like this. So it's nice to see now that well, it's actually very minimal, the thing.
Yeah. It's interesting to see the progression, right? To your point, I think from the first trip when it was the first time we ever assembled 150 pieces, and a lot of the feedback was like, "Oof, you know, how is the folding mech going to work?" They were, I guess, a little bit more serious in terms of like the criticalness of the points. And this time, obviously, following the beta program, the feedback was very granular, very kind of refined, and you know, at one point, I think it got like we were at the factory super late, and you were like obsessing over the, you know, precise torsion of like one of the screws, and then we just like made eye contact, and you were like, wait, yeah, this is all you know, all things considered, it's not that important, right? Like we fixed all the big issues, and I think if anything, it just demonstrates to everyone who's getting the Pro that it's truly a work of art of a scooter. You know, I think we've tried a lot of different products out there, but the amount of care and attention and detail that's gone into making the Pro is unlike anything I've ever seen. So I'm super excited to see how it holds up. And speaking of holding up, I think one of my favorite sort of memories was just seeing that one of the protos, the Chrome sample that sat outside for like I don't know how many months in Chinese, you know, humidity and rain and all kinds of pollution and temperature differences. And we actually got to test drive the scooter that was just completely neglected for like 4 months realistically. And yeah, it still worked really, really well. Obviously, there was some like visible kind of wear and tear on it, but the scooter worked just fine 4 months later, which was cool to see. So I think it'll stand the test of time. Anything else, Elwa, to add in terms of the you know, the updates? I know there's probably a few hundred people eagerly awaiting the delivery of their products. Can you speak a little bit more to the maybe timelines that we're working with?
Yeah, I guess the last big thing too, like that was all the improvement that we saw on the product, but even assemblies. Last time when we were in China, there was, I don't know, 10, not even 10 pieces being made a day because it was so complicated to make them. Compared to this time, oh, it was like, okay, when we get there, was like 50 being made in the first day. Then we go see like one of our supplier one day. We come back the next day, there's already like 100. So even assembling them was a lot better and quicker. So that was fantastic to see with our eyes. And what is your question? The timeline. Yeah. So right now they are probably being loaded as we speak.
Container,
If it's
right?
not already the case, yeah, the first container. So being put on a container usually takes a month. So I think realistically, people are gonna get it early January. So yeah, that's what we work on now. It's always hard this time of the year because you need to like it's a fight against the time because there's Chinese New Year happening. It's in February, you know, so everything need to absolutely ship in like December, early Jan, because when the Chinese New Year, everything is blocked. So it takes a bit later than what we were aiming for, or because we wanted people to get for Christmas. But honestly, it's going to be worth the extra days that you're going to wait for all the little things that we cut. It's I think it's better to get it a week later than this, and we're not talking about a month either later. So that's the current timeline for the first container, and well, the other ones, it's ramping up quickly, so they should ship in the following days as well.
Yeah. So I think the first container, from what I recall, is heading to the States. So anyone in the US, you know, that's about 150 scooters. So if you're in the first 150 orders, on Indiegogo, you're probably have a pretty good chance of getting it in early, call it mid-January to be safe, you know. And then everyone else, you're probably looking at kind of mid to late January, worst case, and you should be all set. But yeah, it's a beautiful scooter. I wanted to share one more quick recording here from when we were looking at what the entire assembly line looked like. Can you see my screen, Amal? I'll just play it in case it's.
We see.
Yeah,
I got it.
it's when basically you can see that obviously the pros all assembled here, and I think that's probably the first, I don't know, 50 or something, maybe 80, and then you connect it to them all via IoT. So it's just kind of a cool little moment.
Turn it on.
Yeah, a little Star Wars moment, you know. The drones were ready to go into battle for you all.
That was nice.
Yeah.
IoT was worth it just for the shot.
Yeah, exactly. Any updates on the software front we should discuss as well ahead of the delivery?
Yeah. So for the app, so I guess there's two things. There's the software, meaning like the actual app, which we changed, and there's also the like embedded software of the scooter. For the embedded software, what was changed? The first one is turning signal. A lot of people complain that they want to have the option at least between infinite, like blinking, or that it stop after 7 times. Infinite meaning that you need to press and press again to stop it, because right now it was 7 times. So that's an option that we're going to be including in the app. You can now choose between those two. The other one that I really like that I saw on other scooters before is the way to activate cruise control. Right now on all our scooters, it's pretty annoying, or at least it's not ideal, that you need to hold the throttle down for X amount of seconds. I think it's 3 to 6 seconds for the cruise control to kick in. It's like kind of hard to really keep the same pressure on the throttle and not move, because as soon as you move just a little bit, 1 kilometers per hour, it's going to reset the timer. So, and the roads are always a disaster. So you ride like this and you're just trying to hold it. So we went back to our controller factory and we asked them to introduce something that it's when the new method of activating the cruise control, which is you can decide in the app, either the old one or the new one. It's you leave your finger on the left turning signal for 3 seconds, and that's going to kick in. So it's a lot more intuitive. You have the accelerator on the side and the little button here. So you just hold it, press it for 3 seconds, and then it kicks in. And that's something we're going to try to implement throughout all our models. So those were the two main ones. There is the IoT problem that we saw. You know, we pushed the wrong firmware to all our IoTs and we needed to replace all of them. So we fixed in the back end the things for this to never happen again. And we also was working with, let's say, the V1 of the IoT API, V2. So everything's going to be a lot quicker when implemented. You can get the status of your scooter way quicker. And also we are going to be able to build on that to like give alert when people move the scooter. It's gonna like text you. So those are all like great foundation that we implemented in a recent week to be able to implement in the future. And for the controller itself, there's a control. So people mentioned that they like the way it is on the Phantom, that you can go from gear 1 to Ludo in just one, instead of cycling through 1, 2, 3, and then Ludo. It's annoying. And you never know if you're in gear 3 or in Ludo, so you always press, and you are in Ludo, so you go back to gear 1, and then you need to go ahead and do it again. So the new way we did it is the same as the Phantom, where you need to press 3 times on the power button to pass from any gears to Ludo, and to exit Ludo, you need to press 3 times again, and you're gonna go back to the gear that you were previously. So it's just a bit more intuitive, because when you want to, like when you want that power, you know, you just do 3 click and then you go. You don't need to go and look at your display or anything. So that's one of them. And except that, the controller was pretty good. You know, we didn't see anything burning. The only one that we saw that had problem was because of the IoT that keep turning it on and off because of the bug I mentioned before. But except that, no defective controller, which is shocking. Just means that, you know, the Mac 2 is really the best one we've made so far. And same thing for overeating. There's pretty much, I think, 5 cases of overeating in like the hills in California, which we were totally expecting. But like maybe an interesting stat, if we look at the average maximum temperature for the Pro 2023, we are looking at max controller temperature 52 degrees Celsius, and the max motor temperature is 48. This is what we recorded. The maximum one is 95. So we're like halfway there, which is, well, honestly, it's shocking because it's the most powerful controller we ever made. So we were definitely expecting a bit more heat. So yeah, so just put things in perspective. And maybe another interesting stat, we have 200 scooters registered right now. There's a total of 10,000 rides. Those 10,000 rides are equal to 83,000 kilometers recorded. And this is just for the beta. This is the amount of kilometers we recorded just to make sure that people can get it. Their scooter is perfect, which is insane. Thank you to all the beta participants. The average distance per ride, shocking, 6 kilometers, you know? So even if you make a battery that can go 80 or 100 kilometers, it's 6 kilometers. And our city single motor 2022, the average distance is also 6 kilometers. So it seems like even if people are using it more, it's they still do the same distance on average. The top speed, the average speed is 25 kilometers per hour, and the average top speed is 53 kilometers per hour. And so all the 200 participants, the average odor is 500 kilometers. Oh. Yeah, really,
Everything you need to know. Yeah, so for everyone who gave us a hard time over the performance specs of the scooter, there you have it. You know, average like utilization of performance is what, 20% of what the scooter can offer, 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe there's an ad idea there too, you know, which is like, you think this is what you think you need, and there's a picture of a Wolf Warrior or something, and then this is what you actually need, and a picture of an Apollo Pro. Cool.
Yeah, so really great. And overall, there was no motor broken. There was no flat tire reported. All the only lights that we saw that was broken is because of opening and closing the deck. So all the components, what I'm trying to say is that usually the component that we see that breaks and are expensive, that are annoying to replace, none of them broke for the Pro. So people can be really reassured, I think, by what they're gonna get, because it's up there. It's in the top. The best thing we ever made.
Cool. Awesome. Eloi, thank you so much as always. Appreciate the rundown. I hope everyone listening is super excited to receive their final production Pros. I know we're super proud of this scooter. Took us 3 years to come to this point. I mean, I remember you unveiled the first proto at a Christmas party 3 years ago, which looked very, very different. You know, Randy, maybe if we can edit in a quick picture of what the V1 proto looked like, which is I think still somewhere in the office, that would be just funny for everyone to see. The product has gone through countless iterations, you know, tens of thousands of hours of work poured into it from our team, the factory team, the beta testers, everyone who came in and touched the product. You know, they left a mark on it, basically. Some literally, you know, one that's engraved on the deck, some more metaphorically. So I hope everyone listening, when you do get your scooter, you kind of keep in mind the fact that this is, you know, you're standing on the shoulders of hundreds of people who poured their heart and soul into the scooter. And in case you're ever wondering what the difference is between buying an Apollo scooter versus buying a Segway, it's this, you know, you see the people who make it, you know the people that make it, you have complete visibility into how it's made and understand all the little iterations that it goes through, so that it's a product with a soul that you're getting at the end of the day. So with that in mind, thank you, and we'll catch you next time.